But I can tell you, Uguti, Tina, in South Africa, we knew Uguti, Julius Malema was not going to win. We knew Uguti, what he was saying, the way he was campaigning before the elections, pissed off a lot of South Africans, especially with that open border thing. That's why we knew as South Africans, Julius Malema is not going to win. But to many African countries, they wanted Julius Malema to win because Julius Malema cares a lot about Africa. So he has that thing. It looks like he cares about Africa more than South Africa. So a lot of these African countries wanted Julius Malema to win so that Julius Malema can continue to push this African Pan-Africanism agenda in South Africa so that we can form a united Africa the way Julius Malema wants it. There's something very interesting that I'm noticing lately, especially I started noticing this thing after this year's elections that we had here in South Africa. It seems like this year's elections have turned South Africa into public enemy number one when it comes to other countries here in Africa. Well, I know Guti, someone is going to come here in the comment section and say, nah, we don't care about South Africa. Why do you think Africa cares about South Africa? Well, we all know that many countries in Africa, they care about South Africa and what's going on in South Africa. I say that because we can see when you go to TikTok, when you go to YouTube, when you go to Facebook, there's a lot of foreigners who can't get South Africa off of their tongues. When they start to speak, they have to mention South Africa. So when I look at those kinds of people from those countries, it's obvious that they are interested in South Africa, because if they were not interested in South Africa, they wouldn't be talking about South Africa. And what I'm noticing this year, so let me put this out there. When I say, when you look at the title and say African countries, I'm not talking about all African countries. I'm talking about those African countries who like to talk about South Africa, who are interested in the issues of South Africa. There are a lot of countries here in Africa who don't care about South Africa or what's going on in South Africa, especially those countries there in the north. They don't really care about what's happening in South Africa. But we know that a lot of countries in Africa care about what's happening in South Africa, because South Africa is one of the best countries here in Africa. So it's only normal for them to care about what's happening in South Africa. But what I'm noticing lately is that these countries see South Africa as a disappointment lately because of the government of national unity that we have established in South Africa. A lot of countries were looking at South Africa to see how us as South Africa, especially us as black South Africans, how were we going to vote in this year's elections, because we were complaining all these years, we are not happy with the ANC, we are not happy with the corruption that's happening in our country, we are not happy with the load sheddings, the lack of service delivery, and we were complaining about the ANC. We didn't want it to be in power anymore. So a lot of African countries were anticipating this year's elections here in South Africa to see, Uguti, are we going to vote for Malema or are we going to vote for the ANC? Because before the elections, a lot of people thought that Malema was actually going to win this year's elections, or at least be the runner-up, maybe be number 2. Yabo? A lot of people didn't anticipate the government of national unity. A lot of people thought Julius Malema was going to win the elections. If he doesn't win, he was going to be at least number 2. But I can tell you, Uguti, Tina, in South Africa, we knew Uguti, Julius Malema was not going to win. We knew Uguti, what he was saying, the way he was campaigning before the elections, pissed off a lot of South Africans, especially with that open border thing. That's why we knew as South Africans, Julius Malema is not going to win. But to many African countries, they wanted Julius Malema to win because Julius Malema cares a lot about Africa. So he has that thing. It looks like he cares about Africa more than South Africa. So a lot of these African countries wanted Julius Malema to win so that Julius Malema can continue to push this African Pan-Africanism agenda in South Africa so that we can form a united Africa the way Julius Malema wants it and the way other African countries want it. So a lot of these African countries wanted Julius Malema to win this election so that this Africa Unite thing can be a reality. But a lot of them were disappointed when us as South Africans didn't vote for Malema and instead voted for ANC, DA, and Umkhonto Wesizwe and the likes, and then ended up forming a government of national unity because the ANC didn't win the outright majority. So we went into a government of national unity with the DA and then the other parties. If you can look at our cabinet now, there's a lot of whites from the DA, and there's a lot of other whites from other political parties, and there's a lot of black people. It's just a mixed masala. It's a mix of whites and blacks. Now that thing is the very thing that has turned South Africa into Africa's public enemy number one, because these countries that wanted Julius Malema to win so that Julius Malema can push this Unite Africa agenda, they see us as black South Africans as sellouts, because we are now in a government of national unity, because some blacks voted for DA, some blacks voted for Umkhonto Wesizwe, which led to the formation of the government of national unity, which Umkhonto Wesizwe is not a part of. This government of national unity mostly is made up of ANC and DA. That's why a lot of people said, no, this is a marriage between the ANC and DA. But this marriage has pissed off a lot of African countries. Now, when they look at us as South Africans, they think, no, we are sellouts. We want to go back to apartheid. We want to give power back to the people who were oppressing us. They are saying, no, a lot of African countries helped South Africa to end apartheid, but the blacks in South Africa, here they again, they voted for the whites again. So South Africa is now public enemy number one. Good note, as black South Africans, we are sellouts. And that thing really doesn't make sense to me. Ne? I don't know why many of these African countries want us as South Africans to do what they want. We won't do what Africa wants. Tina, as South Africans, we are going to do what's best for our country. But here's the thing, us as South Africans, we won't be manipulated by the rest of Africa into thinking that what we decided to vote for in this year's elections was actually not what was best for South Africa. I'm going to say this again, and I always say this on this YouTube channel, Uguti, we as South Africans, we do what's best for South Africa. We don't do what's best for the rest of Africa. And we don't want to be manipulated by the rest of Africa into thinking that the decision that we took of going into this government of national unity was the wrong decision. Because it seems like it's the best decision for South Africa, because we can see the change that the government of national unity has brought in South Africa so far. It doesn't have even a year. It's like 100 days right now. It's over 100 days. But you can see the change that is being brought by this government of national unity. So us as South Africans, even though the rest of Africa see us as sellouts right now, they say, no, we want to take back power and give it to the white people who were oppressing us during apartheid. But the truth is, we voted for the DA, for the ANC, for the Umkhonto Wesizwe and all these other parties, because it's what we wanted as South Africans. So this government of national unity that we have right now is what we wanted as South Africans. It doesn't matter if the rest of Africa understands why we chose to include white people in our cabinet. I know it's hard for many African countries to understand that, because some countries like Zimbabwe, they chose to chase away white people in their countries and then face the consequences. So that's what they wanted for South Africa. They wanted South Africa to vote outright for the EFF so that the EFF can push this open borders agenda and then include the rest of Africa in the matters of South Africa, which didn't turn out to be the thing that happened. So a lot of African countries see us now as South Africans as the public enemy. But then it's okay. It's okay, because what we wanted as South Africa is what we have right now. So that's why I'm saying, Uti, this G.N.U has turned South Africa into Africa's public enemy number one, because in the eyes of these African countries, we are sellouts, we are the enemy. But the truth is, we are not. We are just doing what's best for the country. So I don't know whether what I'm saying uvumelana nako, or when if you are watching me right now you are saying no, this guy is just talking a lot of nonsense, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So if you think maybe I'm wrong, or you think maybe what I'm saying you don't agree with, tell me on the comment section down below. Who would know, my brother, you are wrong, and you are wrong because of these and these. Yabo, don't come to the comment section and say I'm wrong and then don't tell me why you think I'm wrong. Yabo, because some of you come there to the comment section and then start swearing umuntu abizinhlamba for no reason. Ungazi ukuthi umuntu why abizinhlamba, because we are in this platform to learn from each other. So if you don't agree with what I'm saying, don't come to the comment section and say I'm wrong. Tell me, okay, I'm wrong, and tell me the correct way of thinking. Because mina, what I'm saying is that we are in a government of national unity because it's what the people of South Africa voted for. If the people of South Africa didn't want the government of national unity, they were going to vote for the DA or the ANC outright, or the EFF outright. But the people of South Africa chose to vote for these parties so that they can form the government of national unity, which we have right now. So if you don't agree with me, tell me why don't you agree with me. But if you just enjoyed this video and uvumelana nami, you can just show me by leaving a like and subscribing to Mzansi Versity, the place where we transform lives through knowledge and information. My name is Emmanuel. Let's meet again on another video.